Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So now we will enter into this. We will enter into the section where the teacher is answering to the second question of the disciple. As you remember, that at the very inception of Vivekachudamani, the student asked 7 questions to the teacher, and the entire Vivekachudamani is the answer to those 7 questions asked by the disciple, by the teacher. So now the second question was that how has the bondage come upon the self? The first question was, what is bondage? That in the preceding section we already studied till the last class. And now the second question, that how has this bondage come upon the self? That will be answered from the 139th to the 144th verse of Vivekachudamani. So the 139th verse, what it is stating, Akhanda Nitya Advaya Bodha Saktya Sphurantam Atmanam Ananta Vaibhavam Samavrinoti Avriti Shakti Esha Tamomai Rahu Iva Arkabimbam. So this ignorance has 2 powers. One is called Avarana Shakti and the other is the Vikshepa Shakti. Avarana Shakti is the veiling power and Vikshepa Shakti is the projecting power. What it means, with the help of the example, with a very common example, let us try to understand that what it means. That when I see a snake in a rope, first the nature of the rope is concealed. It is concealed. So that is the Avarana Shakti. And then it is appearing as the snake. So once its nature is concealed, it is appearing as something else. So that appearance of something else is the Vikshepa Shakti, the power of projection. So just keeping this in mind, let us now enter into the discussion. So first the Avarana Shakti will be discussed. That what is the Avarana Shakti? That the Akhanda Nitya Advaya Bodha Saktya, the one who is beyond all divisions. He is the one who is Akhanda. Akhanda means that non-dual, the only thing that exists, which is a non-composite. So he is the Akhanda. Nitya. Nitya means that which is Sat in Sanskrit. The Sat has been defined as that which is Trikal Avadhita, whose existence is not interrupted by any phase of time, past, present, future. It is always there. It was, it is, it will be in the eternal present, because there is no transformation in it. So by this, the 3 phases of time in which it exists has been asserted, and its Shadavikara, the 6 types of transformations that we see in any of the material objects, that is denied by the word Nitya. And then Advaya, that's without any duality, non-dual. So whenever we say one, with that the sense of many comes. In all the dualistic religion, what's the idea? God is one. Yes, but is it non-dual? No, the idea is not non-dual. That God is one, but the creation is there, that is many. God is, the creation is. So there are 2 separate existences. Even in Sankhya philosophy, we find Prakriti, Purusha. But in Advaitic Vedanta, they say there is no 2. The one is appearing as many. There is only one. Nothing else exists. Only that Sat Swarupa, the conscious principle alone exists, which is appearing as this universe. So there is no duality. So that's the idea of non-dual. So Advaya. And then Bodha Saktya. And that non-dual reality, even in modern science, with a superficial understanding, what we understand, that yes, that after all, even in science we say that everything is interconvertible to energy. In science, there is a huge endeavor to find out the common field, that there must be a force in which all the other forces can be unified. That till now in science, 4 types of forces has been discovered. The entire universe is the interplay of 4 types of forces. What are they? The gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, the strong nuclear force, and the weak nuclear force. These are the 4 forces which we find is manifesting in this entire universe. The science is in the endeavor to find out a common field, a common force of which all these 4 are expression. And that energy is, of course, something inert, which is appearing as consciousness. Consciousness is an epiphenomenon. So science will say, yes, that's what you are saying is Advaya. Only that energy remains, nothing else. Matter is also an expression of that energy, but energy is something which is inert. So here we find in the scriptures again and again it has been asserted that the ultimate Advaya principle is Bodha Shaktya. It is intelligence, pure intelligence. It is the intelligence which is finding expression in each and every atom of this universe. So that's the idea which is being spoken of as the Bodha Shaktya. Sphurantam Atmanam Ananta Vaibhavam. It is having infinite potential. It is Ananta Vaibhava. Sphurantam Atmanam Ananta. It has this the preponderance. It has the potentiality of expressing itself in infinite number of ways. So, but what happens? That thing which is infinite, it is not almost, which is infinite, which is beyond all limitations, because of ignorance, appears to be something which is limited. Samavrinoti. Samavrinoti means covered. Avriti Shakti. So this first comes this Avriti, Avarana Shakti. So this something which is infinite, that appears to be something limited because of the Avarana Shakti. Its real nature is covered. Avriti Shakti is Avarana Shakti Esha. And that is of the nature of Tamo Mai. In the 3 gunas, Sattva, Raja, Tamo, what it speaks of, illumination, activity, darkness. So again, these are the 3 states of nature. When I find the nature is not manifesting, is there nothing? Is it something which is, there is absence of everything? No. That example which we give again and again. Take an iron bar. It is not showing any magnetism. Can I say that there is absence of magnetism? No. What has happened? That there all the magnetic dipoles which constitutes that iron bar is all scattered in such a way that the magnetic field of one dipole is negating the other. And that's why the entire field appears to be zero. If somehow I can align all those dipoles in such a way that all the north poles are in one direction and the south poles are in one direction, that iron bar immediately gets converted into a magnetic with expression of that magnetic field. That energy, was it absent? No, it was there. It was in the potential form that finds manifestation. So anything which is lying hidden in the potential form is Tamo. And when it is expressing itself, that is Sattva. And then because of that expression, whatever activities we see. Now, that when it gets converted into this magnetic field speaks of the Sattva, the expression. And what's the activity we see? If I put some iron filings in that near that magnet, immediately we will find that it is forming a particular pattern. Being attracted by that magnetic force, it forms a particular pattern. That the activity comes into picture. You will find this entire universe. These words has been coined in thousands of years back. And unless we can relate them with our modern way of understanding, this word sometimes becomes very abstract. So in this world, everywhere we find either there is absence. We see that just as in science also they say that what we see is just a small part of the universe. The most part is the dark matter. So here also that idea of dark matter, it is there, but we cannot perceive. Tamomai, that idea of tamo is that. So here also the real nature of the self is not revealed because of the ignorance. It is there. And that's why the thing which conceals the nature of a thing is the tamoguna. So this avarana shakti is tamomai. So how it is tamomai? Now Shankaracharya is giving that example. Rahu eva arka bimbam. Just the way during the solar eclipse. In the olden days it was to be believed that this Rahu is a graha which comes and conceals the sun. So, graha is something insignificant. Nowadays we know that it is not Rahu, it is the moon. The moon, which is compared to sun, is something very insignificant, that comes between the sun and the earth to conceal the entire sun, which is something resplendent, huge planetary body. It is covered by something small like moon. So ignorance is something insignificant. But just the way the moon covers up the sun during the solar eclipse, similarly, though the ignorance is something insignificant, it has the capacity to conceal, avarana, the real nature of the self. And that's why it appears as limited. So this is the verse in the last class we discussed. So now let's proceed to the next verse, the 140th verse. So what it is saying, the first part of this 140th verse still continues with the discussion of the avarana shakti, and then the next part will start the discussion on the vikshepa shakti, that after its nature is concealed, how it appears. It appears as something else, and because of that it finds expression in something which doesn't speak of my identification with the self. I have forgotten its nature. That way it will reveal. So that's been the second half of this verse, 140th verse, speaks of that vikshepa shakti. So now let's read that verse and then we will go to the discussion. Tiro bhute swatmani amalatara tejovati puman anatmanang mohat ahamiti sharirang kalayati. So still this avarana shakti, that because of the avarana shakti, what happens? That once that the nature of the self gets concealed, the ego comes into picture. This ahankar, aham iti shariram, that I am this body, this idea comes. So when his own self, which is endowed with the purest splendor, this tirobhute swatmani amalatara, nothing can tarnish it. It is pure, amalatara. Tejovati is resplendent. It is the only thing which is the source of all illumination. So, but when that avarana shakti comes between that, comes and conceals that, then what happens? Anatmanang mohat, because of this moha delusion which results from that. So I start feeling the thing which is not self as me, as aham, this body-mind complex. That example which we give again and again, the sun reflecting on the waves of the ocean. There are so many innumerable waves. And now I see innumerable reflections of the sun in each and every wave. The one sun appears as many. As per the distortions of the wave, the sun's reflection may be elliptical, may be oblong. But does it really affect the sun? No, the sun is just as it is, the spherical. Its shape is not changed. But because of the wave, the reflection may appear to be oblong, may appear to be elliptical. So it in no way affects the real sun. But as I get identified with the reflection, I think I am getting affected. So that's the idea of this ahankara, aham iti shariram. Because of I get identified with the reflection, I start thinking myself as this body-mind complex, aham iti shariram. And then what happens? Once you get identified with this body-mind complex, then the vikshepa starts. How? Tatah kama krodha prabhriti amung bandhana gunai parang vikshepakya rajasa urushakti vyathayati. This vikshepa shakti, vikshep akhya shakti. The shakti whose akhya, whose name is vikshepa. That means the vikshepa shakti. So vikshepa akhya shakti, that is that finds expression as rajas activity. Once I see that, again, that's that common example which we give again and again. The rope, the moment you see the snake, the rope was something which was harmless. The moment I see it as a snake, immediately some reactions will be there. I will run, I'm scared, I will shout to warn others, don't go near, there's a snake. I will bring a stick to protect myself, to get rid of the snake. Whatever it may be, all those actions, which speaks of rajas. These reactions comes because I am seeing something which it is not. So all this speaks of the vikshepa, projection. Once its nature is concealed, then all these activities in the form of rajas comes into picture. And here, this what the sloka is saying, kama krodha prabhriti bhi. So he speaks of shara ripu, that once the self's nature is concealed, what happens? As even in the Yoga Sutra it has been mentioned, that from avidya comes asmita. Because of ignorance comes this sense of egotism, that I am this body-mind complex. The moment that comes, the other three follows. What are they? Raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. That the moment I get identified with the reflection, I start thinking myself as the body-mind complex. Then what happens? Now anything which favors its existence, which gives pleasure to its existence, I am drawn towards it. That is called raga. That speaks of all the desire. And anything which is detrimental for its existence, which is harmful for its existence, which is unpleasurable for its existence, what happens? Dvesha and abhinivesha. Dvesha means hatred. Abhinivesha means so much we have clinging to life that we fear death. So abhinivesha speaks of that fear. So dvesha and abhinivesha speaks of fight and flight response. So all these three actually are nothing but karma. Because of my desire to exist in this limited body-mind complex, as I've identified with myself with that. So all the things, the raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, everything speaks of karma. Even hatred speaks of karma. That why I hate something? Because it is detrimental for my existence. I want to live. Why I am afraid? I run away from something which speaks of my annihilation. The same reason. I want to live. So everything, all the things is actually speaks of karma. So this when the desire, when this sense of identity comes with this body-mind complex, the first thing that arises is karma, desire. Now whenever this karma is obscured, I want something, but there is some hindrance in getting it, immediately that finds expression as rage, anger, krodha. And if there is no obstruction, if there is a free access to the thing which I get, then it will get converted into obsession. Today's necessity becomes tomorrow's obsession. If I have the free rein to pursue it again and again. As in the modern science, they say that a groove is formed in your mind, you forget the necessity, you become obsessed by it. So that speaks of lobha. So if karma is obstructed, that finds expression as krodha. If it is not obstructed, it finds expression as lobha. And lobha, in due course, gets converted into moha, infatuation. The thing which you like, you will now make it something glorious. You will add all sorts of adjectives to it. Moha speaks of delusion. That No so-called desired object in this world is perfect. That when a boy falls in love with a girl, is that girl perfect? No. But for the time being, he thinks she is the angel. Why? Because only the positive side that becomes visible. All the negative things, they are not visible. So that speaks of moha, infatuation. The greed leads to infatuation. That there is some, that we say in our eye there is a dark spot. When you are driving the car, they say it's not only the rear mirror. You have to turn your head to see whether a car is coming or not. Why? Because there are some dark spots in our eyes, in the rear mirror. Even when the car is too near, it won't be visible. I have to turn around and see whether the car is there or not. So because there are dark spots in the eyes, so these are the measures we have to take. But these dark spots are not only in the eyes, in our mind the dark spots are there. In all our relations we will find that when that lobha, the greed, we never say it's greed, it is love. That's why Swamiji used to say a very nice thing, in this world, that what is moha? Nothing. It is actually covering the carcasses, a dead body with flower and praising. Oh, it's a great thing. We forget that just in a few days the flowers will get rotten and the carcass will find expression in a more deadly fashion, isn't it? So it's all our praise is actually that this karma finding expression as lobha. Over that we try to cover with all sorts of this this glorifications. We just go on glorifying the things. Why? Because of moha. The negativities are not visible to me at that moment. I think everything positive. And then we will find that in life, when we start staying together, then within few days we find all the bickering starts, fight starts. What? It's just the opposite. Now the infatuation has gone. Why it has gone? Because after all, I have so many other lobha, which I find this relation is not allowing me. And now the so-called relation itself start becoming something bitter. And now just the opposite thing happens. I see only the negative things. The good things are there. That is again now in the dark spot. So we go from one pole to the other, which speaks of moha. That a person is neither fully positive nor fully negative. We all are a mixture of good and bad. But when we are having that lobha, the greed, we see everything good. And when the krodha comes, then everything bad comes to picture. And this speaks of the moha, infatuation. That we do not see the thing as it is. And then what's the next? Mother. So because of my greed, because of the karma, if nothing has obscured my way of getting the thing I desire, that may lead to accruement of wealth, accruement of power, position. And that gives me a sense of that mother. Mother speaks of that tremendous sense of pride. That I am something great. So that sense comes, again, it comes from that desire only. With the fulfillment of desire. Oh, you couldn't succeed, I have succeeded. That makes me pride. Full of pride. That's mother. And Matsarya, but I will find that I am not alone. There are many who are my competitors. That yes, I have succeeded compared to many. But there are many who are equivalent to me. Even they are competitors of mine competitors. And I start feeling envious towards them. So this all from where it started, from that karma. With the karma comes krodha, from karma comes krodha, from karma comes lobha, and krodha and lobha. This too leads to moha. And if our karma is not obstructed, it helps me in accruing wealth, power, position, that leads to mother. And in due course, that also leads to matsarya, envy, pride, envy. So all these things is a projection from what? That the moment I forgot my real nature and I identified myself with this body-mind complex, the karma arose. And from that, all this negativities in the life, which can define all the field of our activities, all the world wars, all the envies, the fight, the tension you find in this world. These 6 ripus can at last define everything. So these are the Vikshepa Shakti. All the evils which we see in this life is because of this Vikshepa that has resulted because of the Avarana. We have forgotten our real nature. So that's what has been spoken of in the 140th verse. So now the 141st verse, it continues with the discussion of this Vikshepa Shakti, Avarana Shakti, leading to Vikshepa Shakti. What it is saying? Mahamoha Graha Grasana Galita Atma Avagamana Dhiya. So just by the way, Shankaracharya's poetic capacity, this skill has found, means it's, you can say, the epoch, maximum expression in this Vivekachudamani. Wonderfully, the language, the Sanskrit he is using is something very wonderful. So, Mahamoha Graha Grasana Galita Atma Avagamana Dhiya Nana Avasthang Swayam Abhinayan Tat Gunataya Apare Sangsare Vishaya Vishapure Jalanidhau Nimajya Unmajya Ayang Brahmati Kumati Kutsi Tagatihi. So now he's giving the example of the crocodile, big crocodile. A man of perverted intellect, that Kumati, the one whose intellect, because of ignorance, it's not speaking of a villainous character. Spiritually, we are all villainous character. The moment I forget my real nature, I get converted into a villain. We are all Kumatis. It's not a particular person here he has been addressed. We need not think, oh, I am great. Others have it. Shankaracharya is actually indicating Kumati as someone else. He is actually indicating us all who are in this quagmire of ignorance as Kumati, the perverted intellect. He is in the grip of the big crocodile of delusion, which prevents him from realizing his real nature of the Atman. Maha Moha Graha. Graha means the crocodile. So Maha, because we have been under the grip of this crocodile, so that has resulted in this great delusion, Maha Moha. From this grip of this delusion has resulted in this crocodile of delusion, which prevents us from realizing the real nature, Atma Avagamana. So this, we cannot realize our real nature. So that has got obscured. And then what happens? Once that counseling power has happened, now we identify ourselves with the working of the intellect. That's Dhiya Nana Avasthang Swayam Abhinayan Tat Gunataya. We get identified with the intellect and its various characteristics, Gunataya. What's the characteristics of intellect? So, in the commentary, they speaks of the characteristics of the intellect is this feeling of kartritva and bhaktritva. That is, I am the karta, I am the bhokta. This is the intellect which makes us feel that. The ego gets identified with the intellect, and the intellect makes the ego feel that I am the karta, I am the doer, I am the enjoyer. In this world, whatever I do, I am the doer. And what are the results I enjoy after doing it? It is I who am the enjoyer. So now here it is saying that the Atman is neither the doer nor the enjoyer. It is the intellect which makes us feel that way. Even in modern, it's a very interesting thing, even in modern psychology they say we are neither the doer nor the enjoyer. That if I just try to equate mana and buddhi in the modern psychological terms, the mana will be the various innumerable mental modules. That we have innumerable, that mind is not one. There are innumerable mental modules which constitute the mind. What are these mental modules? These mental modules are some subsets of fixed stimuli-response conditioning. That if I see the donut, I automatically get attracted. And if I see Vegemite, I get repelled. So, these two things happen. That why? It's all linked with my that sense of ahankara, that I like this, I don't like that. So when you keep something delicious in front of me, you keep something in front, and I feel a tendency to have it, I think I have decided. I have decided to have it. But what the scripture is saying that no, you are not deciding at all. We have innumerable mental modules, that is the mana. And what is the intellect? As per the circumstances, one of the module will get activated. Others will remain dormant. Which will get activated? It's not me who is deciding. It's as per the environment. The entire science of advertisement is based on that. When you are watching the TV, the advertisements are there. The entire science is based on that. What's the idea? That the advertisement will make you feel that I have decided to buy such and such thing. But the advertisement has created such an environment where it has already manipulated your mind by enabling a particular mental module to get activated and others remains dormant. That example sometimes we give again and again. You will find whenever there's an advertisement of a car, a latest model car, and one beautiful lady model is standing in front of the car. What she has to do with that car? Nothing. But why it is there? To activate a particular mental module, nothing else. You get attracted, drawn towards that. So just see, I'm just giving an example of this advertisement. What it is doing, but you think, but we all think, I have decided. But the mind was already drawn. Yes, of course, we will take into other things, but why this? They use that thing to activate particular module, and then, of course, then you are focusing on that particular model. Maybe some very same good model is there, because of lack of proper advertisement, it is not sold. But the same, that with all the facilities, a car which can advertise better, that will be having a better market. So what it speaks of? It speaks of influencing our mental modules. And it gets activated automatically as per the environment. We will find it everywhere in our life. We think I am an integrated personality with a particular characteristics that define me. Is it a fact? You yourself, if you are having no bias, if you can judge yourself, you will find when you are at home with your children and with your family, you are a different person. The same person when you are at office with your colleagues, you are a different person. If you are suddenly meet your class friends of the school or college, you find you have suddenly changed. You have gone to a temple, suddenly your mind has changed. What it speaks of, the environment do influence us. We have innumerable mental modules of which one gets activated, but somehow we are deluded. And that module has a particular stimuli response conditioning. It has a particular stimuli response conditioning. It responds in a particular way as has been fixed there. But it gives me a feeling, I have decided. That's been spoken of here. This dhiya nana avastham swayam. There's one example which we will give. It's a real experiment which has been done. But a very interesting experiment. That a group of students, they were doing some research in some very famous university. They were all students of psychology. As a part of their curriculum, a trip was planned. There will be some excursion. And in that excursion, they can come with their family. They can invite their family, and the family also can accompany them. They will go for some excursion. It is an educational tour, but at the same time, it of course is meant for some recreation also. So now the trip was planned in a wonderful way, that they have to go to some destination, but they won't go in one go. In the evening, by train, they will reach a station which is a small village town. And they will halt for the night there, and the next day morning, again, they will start to go to the destination. So in the evening, when they come to that small village town, now very interesting that the number of students with their families, they were quite a big number, But that being a small village town, it didn't have so many restaurants to just accommodate all of them in the heart of that small town. Some will have to go bit outskirt, bit into some secluded place. There also some accommodation is available. Now this universe, those who were conducting the tour, they decided that we won't force anyone. We won't allocate, because that may create grievance. They may say, oh, I wanted to be in the heart of the city, I was not allocated, or I wanted to be in a secluded place, I was not allocated. So what they planned, let us first take them to a movie, say a movie complex, and let them watch the movie as per they desire. Whatever they desire, let them watch the movies. The various movies were going, some 2-3 hall. So mainly 2 movies were going side by side. One was a family adventure movie and another was a horror movie. A few entered the family adventure movie and a few others entered the horror movie. When they came out, then they were asked to choose the hotel where they want to stay. And it was found that those who they went for the horror movie, they all selected, it was their selection. It is they who selected the hotel, the hotel which was in the heart of that small town. And those who went for the family adventure movie, they themselves, no one had to tell them, they themselves went to some secluded, some remote place. Why it has happened? So when we were evolving, some mental modules called protection, self-protection module developed. What? That when you are chased by a predator, you will find that the herd is running and the predator has chased. The entire herd of cattle will try to be together, though they are running, but they won't run just singularly. They all have to be in a group and they run. Why, you know? That's the protection module. That if I somehow get singularized, if I am singled out, the entire attention of the predator will be on me. If I am on the herd, I may escape. As you are in the herd, you may not be noticed. But if you have somehow get singularized, just you get singled out, if you are running alone, the entire attention will be on me. The lion will chase me and I am going to be killed. So whenever we are scared, whenever we are frightened, we always try to be in group. So that speaks of the protection module. So those who went for the horror movie, their protection module got activated. They came and wanted to be in the herd, in the center of the city. And there's another module called this kith and kin module. That when you are with your family, you want some space. You want some private time to be in seclusion from others. So those who went for that family adventure movie, for them that type of mental module got activated. They all chose the hotel which was in a remote place. So this is an experiment of a very, very famous university. So what it speaks of? It speaks of that actually it is not me who I am deciding. The dhi, what is the intellect? Nishchayatmika. That there are many options of which one is selected. Yes, this is my decision. So this working of the dhi is nishchayatmika, that I choose among all the options. And what is buddhi? That is sankalpa vikalpatmak. There are so many options. Maybe this, maybe that. So this, of that one is chosen. It happens by itself because of the circumstances. But here the self being deluded by being in association with the body-mind complex. And from that the ego comes into picture. Now this ego gets identified with the dhi, thinking that I am deciding. So that's the idea. It's as simple as that. Dhiya nana avasthang swayam. That it is me. That all the various states of the dhi is being taken as that my decision, kartritva. That tat gunaya. This guna is two. Kartritva, bhaktritva. And even I feel that I am enjoying. Am I enjoying? So for that I am not enjoying, you have to go to the next line. Apare sangsare vishaya visha pure jalanidhau nimajya unmajya ayang brahmati kumati kutsitagati. So sometimes We are rising up in ecstasy, this unmajja, and again we are falling in depression, nimajja. We think we are enjoying, but are we enjoying? Again, this we are not the bhokta. We are neither the karta, as just now we were discussing. We are neither the bhokta. It's again the working of the nature. That at last we will find that bhoga, enjoyment. At last all our enjoyment can be boiled down to three enjoyments. That's what Shankaracharya has categorized. What are the three enjoyments? All the enjoyments at last can be boiled down. Putraishana, Vittaishana, Yashaishana. Your desire for progeny, your desire for wealth, your desire for name and fame. You find at last all your desires can be boiled down to these three categories. And is all these three has to do with the sustenance of nature. Putraishana we need not explain. That your desire for progeny has to sustain the nature. Desire for wealth, that also indirectly sustains nature. That unless I have wealth and feed myself, I cannot procreate. So I first have to sustain myself. So that vitta is required. Yashaishana. Well, how is it related to sustenance of nature? That also has to do with the propagation of nature, propagation of genes. How? That all the education, qualification, everything which we are aspiring for what? At last to get a match, to marry, isn't it? So that your genes can be propagated. So, at last, all the three, yashana, has to do with the propagation of nature. Now, nature has to make you, it has to motivate you to do all those things. So, how it will motivate you? So, what it has explained in a wonderful way, what it has done, that whatever desire you have, when it is fulfilled, you will get tremendous happiness. In the modern way of psychology, they say, there will be the secretion of the hormone called dopamine, and you feel ecstatic, dopamine secretion. But it could have, that the nature could have planned in such a way that the dopamine secretion remains saturated once you get it. No, immediately it starts depleting. The moment you get, after that it starts depleting. Why? So if after taking the most delicious meal, which I really relish, if my dopamine secretion remains high, I will be in samadhi. I won't have to go for the second meal. And that will speak of my disintegration. So nature has to continue. If I get disintegrated, how can the nature be propagated? So it has to come down. So whenever you will find any desire is fulfilled for any of this creature, it takes us to the ecstasy, and that is unmajja, and immediately it's nimajja, it comes down. Nimajja, it comes down. Very interesting. If I now study the nature of this working of the nature, it's wonderful. That we think we are enjoying. Are we enjoying? It is the nature has planned in such a way. It has used happiness as a tool to make us do something by which nature is propagated, and we are just the tool. We are just serving the nature. See, when your desire is fulfilled, you go to the ecstasy, and when immediately it comes down, but when the next time again you pursue, do you remember that your desires always evaporates? You always remember the ecstasy. So our memory is again filtered. You'll find that whenever we, if I just sometimes jokingly say that every year we find this, those are the Indian diaspora. In the month of November, December, there's a huge rush for going to India. Just let's go there. And so much of happiness. Oh, we are going, we will meet our... And when they come back, invariably for a few weeks, they can't be seen. That in the center, those who come regularly, they are not seen. What has happened? They are having all sorts of, what to speak of this jet lag. Apart from jet lag, all sorts of infections, everything they have. But the next time, again they will plan. Do they really think of all those infections they bring? No, they think, oh, I will go and meet my relatives. So that's the way of filtering of the memory. That's why our childhood is, sometimes we would say, oh, it was very joyous. The past was joyous. Generally we say. Why? Because our memory filters out, unless something extremely traumatic has happened, it just filters out all the so-called struggles of life. It makes us remember only the good things. Why? Because if we remember the negativities, we won't have that same pursuit, that same motivation to pursue. So it makes the memory filters out all the bad things. It keeps only the good things. It makes us remember only the ecstasy. It makes us forget all the evaporation. That's the working of the nature. And again, you will find all our happiness actually is in the anticipation. In the morning, from the morning you are planning, you will go for a trip, have some nice dinner with your friends in some restaurant. And when you are already there, you will find you have started feeling bored. From the morning you were so ecstatic when you are planning. But when you are already in the act, you start getting bored. Why? When I was anticipating, the nature gave me the maximum dopamine secretion. Because it has to somehow motivate me to do it. And when you are already in the action, nature's work has been done. Its work has been done. So why there is no need for giving you the dopamine secretion. You thought for such and such thing I will get happiness, but when you are in it, you find that happiness is, you already have reached the plateau. Happiness is more in anticipation. So from all these you will find it is actually the nature who has made us the tool to make us do something by which it is sustained. Giving us the feeling, I am the bhokta. Am I the bhokta? So that's the thing he's saying. Nimajya unmajya. It is just taking us up, throwing us again down in the abyss. And that's how we are going around in this ayam brahmati kutsita gati. And not only that, this ocean is vishaya pura. Why? Because after all we find all our necessities get converted into obsession. So it's like a poison. It is taking us spirally downwards. Like a bee, we came to suck the honey, and I find that now it's time to fly, my wings have got stuck in the honey. So that's how it is poison. It is taking us in this spirally downwards. And that's why this spirally downwards motion has been called as the kutsita gati. It is something which leads to miserable fate. It binds us. So this is all the expression of the Vikshepa Shakti. So in short, because of the Vikshepa Shakti, the mind gets attached with the Ahankara, which in turn gets attached with the Buddhi, making us feel, I am the Karta, I am the Bhokta. So that's all how the nature is working. So after explaining the working of the Avarana Shakti and the Vikshepa Shakti, now Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya in the next two verses will give some example, very wonderful illustration to illustrate the Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti, which we will just go through the example quickly to conclude this section of how that we came under this bondage. The second question, that what is ignorance, and that how this ignorance is working. That's the second question. So for that section will be over with another two verses. So what's the next two verses, which are the illustrations actually of the Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti. The 142nd verse gives the first example. What's that? Bhanu Prabha Sanjanita Abhra Panktihi Bhanu Tirodhaya Vijrimbhate Yatha Atma Udita Ahankriti Atma Tattvang Tatha Tirodhaya Vijrimbhate Swayam. Bhanu Prabha Sanjanita Abhra Pankti. Now how the clouds are formed? It is because of the sun. Because of the sun, the water body evaporates to form the cloud. It is because of the sun the clouds are formed. It is the self. Apart from self, nothing is there. It is because of the self the ignorance comes. Ignorance is not something separate from the self. There is nothing separate from the self which comes and obscures my real nature. It is something which has been projected by the self alone. So that's why he's giving this example. Just the way the sun, because of which the clouds has formed, and once the cloud is formed, this cloud now conceals the sun. It doesn't illumine the sun. And it doesn't illumine the sun, but it illumines the cloud gets illumined. What I see is only the cloud. The sun has got covered. At night, in the full moon night, the moon is not visible, the clouds are visible. What has happened? The moon has got concealed by the clouds, and the moon's light is illuminating the cloud, and I think it is a cloud which is illumined, isn't it? Or in the daytime, it is a cloud which is illumined by the sun. So once this ignorance conceals the real nature, then the product of ignorance, this ahamkara, that alone is illumined. I think that because of this I, which is the only conscious entity, everything is happening. But that I itself is actually the thing which has evolved from consciousness, and it is again in turn concealing the real nature of consciousness to make us feel this is the thing which is illumined. So that's a wonderful example Shankaracharya is stating in the 142nd verse. This is Bhanu Prabha Sanjanita Abhrapankti. That the layers of cloud which arise from the sun's rays conceal the sun. That's the first thing. And Bhanu Tirodhaya Vijrimbhate Yatha. And what after it conceals the sun, what it does? The sun is no more seen, but these clouds are seen. The clouds becomes illumined, and that's what we see. So that's the Vijrimbhate Yatha. So similarly, Atma Udita Ahankriti Atma Tattvam. Because of that consciousness, non-dual consciousness, because of the Atman, this Ahankara has come into existence. It is not something separate from the Atman. And once it comes into existence, it conceals the Atman in one way. It just conceals the real nature of the Atman, and in another way, what it is doing, it is making us feel that it is the only thing which is the Karta and the Bhokta, just as we studied. It is the thing which is the agent for all our actions. Tatha Tirodhaya Vijrimbhate Swayam. It expresses itself. It conceals the Atman and it expresses itself. So that is what second has been indicated in the 142nd verse. The 143rd verse will give another example to explain the Vikshepa Shakti. What is the Vikshepa Shakti? Kavalita Dinanatha, the Lord of the day, the sun. So this another name of sun is Dinanatha. Kavalita Dinanathe Durdine Sandra Meghai. Because of the clouds, it was dense clouds. Sandra Megha means cloud. Sandra Megha means dense cloud. Because of the dense cloud, the sun is totally covered, Dinanathe. And then what happens? Vyathayati hima jhanjha vayu ugra yatha etan. And then there is this, the cold blasts. The strong cold wind has starts blowing, and just think of the weather in there's western countries in the winter. The sun is not visible. It's raining. Like the wind is icy. So that's not something which we enjoy. It makes us feel horrible. So that's the example. This is Vyathayati. It makes us feel miserable because of the hima jhanjha vayu ugra yatha etan. That the cold blasts that ensues because of that concealing of the sun. Similarly, avirata tamasa atmani avrite. Just the same way, when the tamas, the ignorance covers the Atman, the mura buddhi, there's all those who are spiritually ignorant, all those who are, in the words of Swami Vivekachudamani, the mustached babes. Physically we have grown mustache, but spiritually we are babes. That's the mustached babes. So these mustached babes are the mura buddhi. We all are like that. Kshapayati vahudukkhai tivra vikshepa shakti. So it leads to all this dukkha resulting from kama, krodha, lobha, mada, moha, matsarya. Because of all this shararipu, all the afflictions which we are going through is just like that strong cold wind, the burst of cold wind once the sun gets concealed in the winter. Just like that is a Vikshepa Shakti. So with these two examples, what we studied in details in the previous verses, he's trying to elucidate it so that it is even understood by a common person with the help of these two examples. And after that, he will be concluding this section
in the 144th verse by saying, Etabhyam eva shaktibhyam bandha pungsah samagata yabhyam vimohita dehang matva atmanam brahmati ayam. So it is these two powers, Etabhyam eva shaktibhyam, these two powers, Avarana Shakti and Vikshepa Shakti, which is the cause of the bondage, Vandha Pungsa Samagata. That the bondage occurs because of these two, Yabhyang Vimohita, by being deluded by these two, Dehang Matva, I think myself as this body, and the self goes on through the process of birth and death, this infinite transmigration because of this ignorance. So with this the answer to the question that how has the bondage come upon the self is concluded. So in the next class we will take up the third question which the disciple has asked to the teacher. So with this we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskar.